Tonight on CFTK-TV News, a tragic fire occurred on Vancouver Island right before the new year. Tipping has become a bit of a hot topic discussion in Canada, and there was a rather unusual animal sighting on a Vancouver Island highway recently.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Baslett, and here is what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. It was revealed in a recent statement by the Rogers Communications Company that they have officially activated 5 brand new cell towers that are located along the infamous Highway of Tears in BC. Also, according to their statement, Rogers did confirm that a gap of 166 kilometers of the road that didn't have service before will now be filled by the new towers placed along Highway 16 in northern BC. But the project is still ongoing, and once it's fully completed, it should end up fulfilling a recommendation in 2006's Highway of Tears Symposium report that asks for cell service to help prevent more tragedies from occurring on the highway. Terrace's RCMP released a report on their website disclosing that they recently executed a search warrant for a residence located on Sunyao Street. At the residence in question, the police's search saw them find items such as suspected illicit drugs like psilocybin, cocaine, as well as cannabis to go along with other pieces of drug trafficking paraphernalia and a few different weapons like knives. Officers also discovered 2 adults at the scene that ended up being taken into custody, although no charges have been laid due to this investigation at this time. As of right now, the investigation is still ongoing and no other information will be made public for a while. Vancouver Island had a very unfortunate incident occur right before the new year as the boardwalk on Telegraph Cove was engulfed in flames. CTV's Adam McMillan has more word on what happened.
As flames lick the early morning sky, a treasure on northern Vancouver Island is reduced to ash.
When we first pulled up, it was fully involved.
A portion of Telegraph Cove's crown jewel, the boardwalk, is swallowed by flames, prompting a response from several nearby fire departments.
I was still laying in bed trying to go to sleep when I heard them get the call. I was dressed before he even called us because I knew we were coming.
Once the sun rises, it's clear several beloved buildings have fallen.
The whole end of the boardwalk, the Whale Museum, Prince of Wales office, the restaurant, Tide Rip, the Westell House, they're all gone.
Matt Oakart is one of few people who lives in the tourist destination where he works for a kayaking company.
I moved up here several years for work and fell in love with the place and continued up here, so it's devastating.
Around 11 a.m., the fire is under control. Firefighters say they had a hard time accessing flames that burned below the boardwalk.
They came from all over the North Island, and they did a heck of a job to save the rest of the boardwalk.
David Summers represents Telegraph Cove for the regional district. He says history has gone up in smoke.
Telegraph Cove was the first place that whale watching started in all of British Columbia. So this whole thing is a major tragedy.
Telegraph Cove Resort is listed for sale at $12.5 million. The resort is essentially all of Telegraph Cove, including the businesses, museum, and marina. We had a phone call with the realtor who's working with potential buyers. He says the fire is an unexpected and unfortunate twist, but he's optimistic the resort will sell.
Everything on the North Island is beautiful, but it was our treasure.
The cause of the fire is not yet known, but one thing locals do know is that they will rebuild.
This is an international destination, so I would like to think all levels of government would rise to help them rebuild that.
He plans to ask the provincial and federal governments to help rebuild what's been lost. Anna McMillan, CTV News.
Coming up next is a look at a Canadian tennis player's grueling journey to her successful 2024. Welcome back. As we embrace the start of a new year, yesterday saw thousands of people across the province of BC brave frigid waters for an annual tradition known as the Polar Bear Swim, a rite of passage that's growing in popularity year-round. CTV's Rob Buffum had a preview explaining just why this event is considered to be so important.
Barbara Bialikos braves the chilly waters off Oak Bay's Willows Beach every day, a ritual she calls invigorating.
Right now I feel incredible.
She's not alone in embracing a dip in the icy ocean. Thousands across BC will take the plunge for a polar bear swim tomorrow to ring in the new year. And 700 students at UVic charged into the sea at a recent event organized by the UVic Polar Dippers, one of the university's most popular clubs.
It boosts your adrenaline and it gives you this feeling for the rest of the week of just excitement.
Of course, there are those who say swimming in frigid water is for the dogs.
No, I got my feet turned blue.
It's not for me personally, but yeah, good on them if they can stand it.
Not a cold water guy.
But the Polar Dippers say low temperatures make the experience highly social.
It's amazing for building community as you're doing something uncomfortable with a lot of people, and it kind of cuts out the small talk and you get to know people a lot quicker.
Experts say don't stay in too long and go with a friend if you're a beginner. But the perceived perks of a plunge are growing.
Multiple studies show the potential health benefits of cold water dipping include increasing your circulation, boosting your immune system, reducing stress and anxiety, and enhancing your mood.
While the science on this is still evolving, those who do it swear by it.
It's very calming and resetting. So if you're having a very stressful day, within about 5 seconds of being in the water, one feels completely calm and happy.
With a new year hours away, more and more dippers will soon take to the water for a shivery tradition that makes them feel calm and happy. Robert Buffum, CTV News, Oak Bay.
Up next is another update on how the Liberal Party continues to fall out of favor with the Canadian public, which unsurprisingly is occurring at the same time that the Prime Minister is continuing to fall out himself with his own party. CTV's Rachel Aiello reports further.
As Canadians wait for Justin Trudeau to make a decision about what his 2025 will look like, new polling shows the federal Liberals slipping further. Nanos' latest ballot tracking has the Conservatives at 47%, a new long-term high for that party. The Liberals are 26 points behind them with 21% support, while the NDP are at 17%.
Going into 2025, the biggest winner is Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, and the biggest losers are both Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh, because both the numbers for them and their parties are down in the close of 2024.
This as the pressure campaign on the Prime Minister to resign mounted over the holidays. The majority of Trudeau's Ontario and Atlantic caucuses have said they want a new leader. And now it appears the Quebec caucus has reached that consensus as well, prompting some Liberal strategists to suggest Trudeau stepping down in 2025 may be an inevitability.
The demands that caucus have are quite strong, and there's not really a path forward that the Prime Minister has that doesn't include a resignation.
Still in British Columbia and still not addressing the resignation calls, Trudeau today shared the Liberal Party's latest ad campaign that he's not in.
I don't want to worry about Poilievre cutting pensions.
And said if Poilievre wants an election, the Conservative leader will have to come clean about what he'd cut.
The wacko.
Striking a different tone, Poilievre taunted top Liberals for being wackos.
What happens if they run a government?
One prominent Liberal not featured in Poilievre's New Year's Eve video was Mark Carney, who is catching new attention for an op-ed talking about Canadians' desire for change and how they deserve a real choice in 2025.
The Liberals are battling, not just internally, they're battling time for a change, which is a massive force right now being led by Pierre Poilievre.
Between Trudeau's MPs pushing for a national caucus meeting and chatter about potential timelines for a prorogation and Liberal leadership race, some party insiders are expecting the Prime Minister to address the public early in January. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
Tipflation has become a hot topic with many consumers that are concerned about how much they're expected to tip and who their money is going to. Here's CTV's Janice Golding on where tipping is heading in the new year of 2025.
This is a very popular piece.
Tristan Joseph is a manager at Civil Liberties, a trendy Dovercourt Village cocktail bar. And the hospitality worker highlights just how important tipping can be for those in the industry.
It makes up a measurable portion of our income. So yeah, as of right now, it is we are dependent on them.
In fact, a late fall Angus Reid Atlas Tipping Trends survey shows that 71% of hospitality workers think tipping is important. But as the cost of living continues to rise, tipping practices have decreased 39% over the last 2 years.
I think people are opting out, or at least opting for the lower range on the point of sale. And I predicted that would happen. I think we've been pushed a little too far as consumers.
Food economist Mike von Maslow has studied tipflation and says people are being asked to tip on a total that now includes the tax and provide gratuities in industries where tipping was never considered before, at higher rates than ever.
I've seen starting at 18, I've seen starting at 20. And I think that's why people are pushing back.
The survey also found 47% of respondents think tipping should be voluntary. 47% of people don't know how their tips are distributed, with 21% having no idea how much of their tip reaches the service provider.
When it comes down to hospitality, their desire to leave the tips is even higher when they know that the tips don't go to the business and they actually end up in the hands of the employees.
Afshin Musavian is CEO of Atlas, a platform that helps restaurants distribute their tips. He says 9 out of 10 hospitality operators want more transparency in tip distribution, which can be complex given it's divided among the team members working that shift, the number of hours worked, and seniority. Professor von Maslow says technology like this can be helpful, but people are still feeling the pinch despite a drop in inflation.
They are angry that they're being pushed so hard. So I think 2 things are going to happen. People are going to continue to opt out or go out less. People are going to push back at places where they don't think they need to tip. And if they're doing that, then they're also going to rethink their entire tipping protocol.
And he predicts hospitality providers will respond by lowering their expectations and tip prompts on card reading machines. Janice Golding, CTV News.
And now we take a look at both your nightly and weekly weather forecasts. For the nightly forecast, the North Coast will see snow with a low of 0 degrees. The Terrace Kitimat area should deal with a chance of flurries while their low sits at -7 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District will see their own chance of flurries at a low dropping to -15 degrees. And as for the weekly forecast, the North Coast will most likely be home to lots of flurries and rain with the high bouncing between 3 and 6 degrees. In the Terrace Kitimat area, the next week or so should deal with some sun, but snow and flurries outside of that as the high shifts from -8 to -2 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the week for them is expected to consist of snow, clouds, flurries, and with possibly a little sun while the high moves from -14 to -5 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is slippery sections, utility work, maintenance, and the Usk Ferry has been shut down for the season with the cable car now in effect. Highway 118 has some slippery sections too. Highway 37 has slippery sections and the Moonlit Creek Rest area is still closed due to flooding. Highway 37A has slippery sections as well. There's some more slippery sections on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road also has slippery sections. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, a BC-based company stepped up to help with Beyoncé's Christmas halftime show. Welcome back. Coming across a deer or even a bear on a BC highway isn't that unusual, but how about a marine mammal? A wayward California sea lion caused quite a commotion when it parked itself in the middle of a Vancouver Island highway on Sunday. CTV's Shannon Patterson has the story and the must-see video.
Just before dawn on Sunday morning, a motorist on Highway 4 between Port Alberni and Ucluelet saw what they initially thought was a bear.
But upon closer examination was this poor sea lion that was lost his way and was right on the highway, so really dangerous. And we were able to get the RCMP constable out there.
So I scratched my head and thought this will be interesting.
At first, Constable Michael McDonnell tried to shoo the 150-kilogram California sea lion toward nearby Kennedy Lake with a stick.
It was not liking that, so it started to chase me and bark at me. And I don't know if those things bite or if it hurts when they bite, but I wasn't willing to find out, so I just gave it distance and called Parks Canada to come give me a hand.
As the Mountie and the park warden tried to wrangle the wayward sea lion, they marveled at how far it had traveled.
As the crow flies, I think it's probably at least 15 kilometers from the ocean. But again, the Kennedy Lake does have a couple rivers and creeks that flow to the ocean, and that's how we think the animal got to where it is.
You could see the lake, but it was a very steep embankment on the side of the road, so it wouldn't have been able to climb up that, and it really couldn't get back into the lake down that embankment because it would just hurt itself as it fell down. So yeah, it must have walked at least half a kilometer. I don't think they walked, but they waddled half a kilometer up from where it exited the lake.
Eventually, the sea lion made its way back to Kennedy Lake.
And it took about an hour and a half, so it wasn't quick. It wasn't in any hurry.
The DFO is praising the motorist who called in authorities and will monitor the sea lion in case it wanders up to the highway again.
And hopefully we don't see it again and it ends up back in the ocean on its own.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News.
And now we look at a profile of a Canadian female tennis player who went through quite the odds-defying journey in order to achieve the success that she's gotten throughout the previous year. Over to CTV's Allison Bamford now with more.
Will they be smiling after this point?
A remarkable season for Gabriela Dabrowski, playing some of the best tennis in her life. Win after win, the 32-year-old doubles player went from Wimbledon finalist to Olympic bronze medalist, capping off the season winning the WTA finals, leaving the Ottawa native ranked third in the world, all while keeping a big and scary secret. In a lengthy, raw Instagram post, Dabrowski shared her breast cancer diagnosis publicly for the first time today. I know this will come as a shock to many, but I am okay and I will be okay. Early detection saves lives, she said, going on to emphasize the life you can live if the disease is detected early. Dabrowski says she was diagnosed in mid-April after noticing a lump in her breast the year prior. She went through 2 surgeries, recovery, and rehab before returning to the game in June. She delayed further treatment so she could compete in Wimbledon and the Paris Olympics. If you saw me smiling more on the court in the last 6 months, it was genuine, she says. Her doubles partner Erin Routliffe showed her support on Instagram, saying it's a great reminder that you have no idea what people are going through. Here's to more smiling in 2025. Dabrowski says her diagnosis helped her appreciate the things she has and find gratitude in the challenging parts of life. She ended her post cursing cancer before thanking the disease. Allison Bamford, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Beyoncé's Christmas Day NFL halftime show on Netflix was seen by roughly 27 million people around the world, but the dazzling performance could have turned into a disaster if it weren't for a BC-based company stepping up with its special shoes. CTV's Kevin Chirac explains.
They're specialized shoes for horses made in BC's Sunshine Coast.
Most likened to a Nike. Like a running shoe. Simply open up the boot.
Cavalo launched in the mid-90s when Carol Herder and her husband were determined to find an alternative to traditional horseshoes.
The idea is that you don't nail metal into horses' feet, which constricts their natural hoof mechanism and in fact cause them a lot of pain and damage.
The boots took off, now popular around the world, even appearing in last year's Oscars on Jenny the Donkey. Before that, used by the late Queen Elizabeth II. From Queen E to Queen B.
So these boots, I mean, they really saved the day.
The team behind Beyoncé's Christmas Day halftime show on Netflix needed a last-minute order. The shoes, known for their traction, able to help the horses balance on potentially slippery surfaces.
Some of the horses we had there were even 1,500 pounds. To have a horse slip and fall is so unbelievably dangerous. Safety and comfortability is just like the most important thing for us.
We didn't know, actually, we were not privy to who was getting these boots and what sort of production it was. And in fact, we joked about it. Oh, wouldn't it be funny if it was Beyonce?
She was right, and the Cavalo shoe-wearing horses didn't miss a beat.
Of course, we jumped up and down and had a glass of champagne.
Beyonce loved the boots.
The performance watched by nearly 27 million people. The Sunshine Coast Company's shoes shining on the big stage. Kevin Chirac, CTV News.
And now we turn our attention to how the stock markets are looking as of today, pre-closure. The Canadian dollar is down 23/10 cents. The price of gold is up $23.90. Oil is up $1.56. Natural gas is up 7 cents. Aluminum is down $13. In Toronto, the TSX is up 110.86 points. The Venture Index is up 17.40. And in New York, the Dow Jones is down 238.40 and NASDAQ is down 144.80. Still ahead, a very unique Airbnb experience is available for anyone looking to have a very different vacation. Welcome back. If your New Year's resolutions include traveling somewhere unique and being a part of history, one Airbnb listing will help you do both. As CNN's Jeremy Roth explains, the Wisconsin Maritime Museum is inviting guests to spend a night on a war-era submarine.
Ahoy, sailor! Wouldn't you like to stay the night in this vintage submarine? I wouldn't, personally, but there are no doubt plenty of people who would love to go from landlubbin' to late-night subbin'. Wisconsin's Maritime Museum is banking on it and has made a full-on Airbnb listing for the USS Cobia, a storied World War II submarine the museum says is the best preserved in all of America. An overnight booking in the so-called sub-B&B includes 5 guests, but for a fee you could bring a fleet of up to 65 and reenact your own Das Boot in this boat, climbing through hatches to sleep in the command center, the engine room, the torpedo room, everywhere but the captain's quarters. Respect the rank, sailor. I'm Jeremy Roth.
Kamloops RCMP are asking for the public's help in identifying a suspect they say is wanted in connection with an armed robbery. Officers reportedly went to the 1300 block of Hillside Drive on December 22nd at around 5:45 p.m. after a report of a robbery with a firearm. Police said officers quickly arrested one suspect who was wanted on multiple warrants, but a second suspect remains at large. The RCMP are looking for a man described as having a fair complexion, who wore dark shoes, black pants, a beige vest over a black hoodie, and a black hat with a white logo at the time of the incident. That is all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin, and thanks for watching. We will see you next time.